So good evening. Welcome again to Constellation Stories. And we'll be looking at Vulpecula tonight. I am not taking any chances that I haven't unclicked mute tonight. I think that's what I did. I don't know what happened. Pretty sure it was my end. So I'm just going to turn up the volume and see if I can hear myself this evening. Yes, I hear myself. Fantastic. Great. And I'm also going to keep an eye on the community board just in case. Right. So I'm glad we're all good. And I'm going to switch the screenshot on the main show page and get going as quickly as we can. So it's one of those constellations where I was like, it's tiny, there's no myth because it's very new. We'll talk about that in a minute. So let's just do half an hour. There's actually a lot to talk about with Vulpecula. I was kind of surprised. So it is going to be a bit of a let's get through it, see how it goes. So we've got great weather in the Canary Islands. Hooray! So you can see on the All Sky tab, we've got the half meter running tonight. We're already on the Alpha Star on the half meter. T2 on tabs 3 and 4 are going to be they're going to be jumping around quite a lot. That's also on the Alpha Star right now, and the deep sky is not going to kick in on Vulpecula for another 20 minutes or so. So mainly the tabs 1 to 4 for the first 15 minutes. And here we are. So just flicking back to the main show page, just to orient ourselves for Vulpecula. It is snuggled within the summer triangle. So the summer triangle being the stars Deneb in Cygnus, Vega in Lyra, Altair in Aquila, forming this triangle we can see in the northern hemisphere in the summer. And in its midst lies our little fox Vulpecula. My very faint writing there. Sagittarius, which we looked at last week, and Delphinus, which we looked at the week before, not too far away. So these are these small constellations we're having a look at, and we'll be looking at some smaller ones nearby over the next week or so. And while I'm on this, I just wanted to apologise. I got a couple of emails on Delphinus which were fantastic of information about them and tales about them that I didn't get in time. So I'm encouraging people to put them up as illuminations. But here we are on Vulpecula. So you can see in the middle, it looks like there's 3 stars in this particular depiction of it. Sometimes it's depicted as 2 stars. If you look at that picture on the upper left, you can see there are more stars than that, and then you hopefully see the Alpha Star. So let me just close this one down and put it over here, and then bring this large one up. In the middle, there you go. You can see the Alpha Star. So I don't want to miss just giving you a quick bit of news a bit of information about the Alpha Star. So the Alpha Star is called Anser. It actually has a name. For such a tiny constellation, that's a surprise. But it does have a name, Anser, and it's Latin for goose. And the reason being is that, as I mentioned, there's not a lot of myth for Vulpecula because it's relatively new. It was found in the 1600s by Johannes Hevelius. We've talked about him before. Very charming man who lived in Poland. I don't know what's going on tonight. Poland. And he was not only a mayor and an astronomer, but also a brewer. And he built these amazing telescopes, if you remember, and instruments. And he named this constellation. He named several. Some are obsolete now. One we've done before, Canis Venatici. But he named this, and he named it the little fox with the goose, because to him that's what he saw, this fox in the sky with a goose. And there's a picture of that on the lower left on the main show page, you can see. But as time went on, people didn't like the wordiness of the little fox and the goose, so they dropped the goose, and instead the Alpha Star just took the name of the goose, Anser. So that's what we're looking at here. It's about 300 light years away, and it's an optical binary. So you can see that star nearby. That's 8 Vulpeculae. It's not in a binary star system. It's just an optical binary, which means they appear like they're in a binary star system, but they're not actually connected to each other. But a really lovely star nonetheless, and I'm gonna take a snap while we're here. So that's going to stay in tabs 3 and 4 for a little while longer, and the half meter is going to actually move on to something a little bit different, and then we'll get going with the stories. I just want to talk to you a bit about it. So as Daryl kindly emailed me and talked about how Vulpecula is really amazing. It's like a constellation with a lot of firsts in it. It had the first pulsar ever discovered by Jocelyn Bell Burnell was in Vulpecula, and not knowing what it was even considered to be of alien origin, and became known as the LGM signal, which stood for Little Green Men. And then there was also, it was the first millisecond pulsar rotating at 642 times a second was found in Vulpecula. And then if you're on the half meter, it's hard to see, and I saw this last night and I did contemplate not including it, but it's really interesting and I wanted to have this in here. So I know it looks like we're looking at a mass of stars here, but what I set the target for was HD 189733, which is also catalogued as V452 Vulpeculae. So it's a binary star system, and it's only 63 light years away. And the primary star is thought to be an orange dwarf, and the secondary one a red dwarf. But the interesting thing about, well, it's interesting anyway, but the interesting thing about it was in 2005, it was confirmed that an exoplanet orbits the primary star. And it's a gaseous giant, 13% larger than Jupiter, close enough to complete an orbit every 2 days. And in 2007, it was discovered that there's a significant amount of water vapor there. So this sort of planet is said to be the second exoplanet where definitive evidence for water has been found, which is really, really exciting. And as often happens, I'm not sure when this information was last updated. I don't know if it was the second, or maybe there's more. I'm not down with my exoplanets, so don't take me on that. But it's really exciting that in here, in this midst, is an exoplanet that could support life, which is amazing. So I thought, why wouldn't we just aim the telescopes there and have a good old look? And I'm so nervous about the sound, I'm just going to turn this up again. I can hear myself still. Good. Fantastic. It's very hard to flick between the community board and the space situation room on my computer. I lose the pages sometimes, so I didn't really want to do that. So that's going to be on the half meter for a little while longer, so keep your eyes out. You won't see the planet, obviously, but it's nice to have a look. And I think from what I remember last night, there was some nebulosity that came up on the right hand side that I assumed belonged to the Dumbbell Nebula. And then on the main show page, you can just see several of the things that are, it's such a rich constellation. It really is. I mean, one of the things we're not looking at that Daryl mentioned was NGC 7052, which is destined to be devoured by its own black hole, he says. And we're also not looking at NGC 6940, which is sort of the top left of this constellation. And that's an open cluster, and it's supposed to be quite lovely. But we are looking at NGC 6885, that's an open cluster. We're going to look at M27, the Dumbbell Nebula. There's so many missions to it at the minute. We're going to look at NGC 6820, which is an emission nebula. And then CR399, Colander 399, which is the amazing coat hanger asterism. So lots to see. There is a lot in here. I'm just going to move this back, perhaps over here. There we go. And I'm just summing an R. We've got the coat hanger coming up in 1 minute, and then we'll begin some tails. But I'll just sort of juice you up on the tails. So given this is such a new constellation, say new, 1600s, it doesn't come with all the myth that we have with a lot of them. So I was really sort of like thinking about what can I say about Little Fox, and I looked for Little Fox stories, and they all were really sort of aimed at children and didn't seem very apt. And I was talking to a friend, and I said, "Do you know any stories of little foxes?" And she said, "Well, of course, there's that fox in The Little Prince." And I thought, my goodness, I had never read The Little Prince, and I know it's such a well-known book, and everyone I know has read it or seen the TV show. My partner made me watch the YouTube videos for it at the weekend, and so I ran to a bookstore and got it, and just what a really lovely tale. That is really rich in astronomy, more or less. I mean, okay, it's sort of made up astronomy, but it talks a lot about the stars and planets and stuff like that. So I thought it was really, really perfect. So I thought I would condense some of the story for those who, like me, don't know it, and then we'll share, or I'll share the parts with the foxing, because he offers some really, really lovely advice for humanity, and I thought that might be just a really nice way to sort of think about this constellation. And as a sort of aside, there was another short story I found about a little fox that I've posted in Illuminations, and in fact, if you scroll down in the Space Situation room, you should, and then scroll to the right in Illuminations posts for Human Spirit, you might see it there, but I recommend reading it later. It was just an idea for people if they wanted to share stories while looking at this constellation with their friends. But not to be missed in any way, shape or form is what we are now looking at in tab 3 and 4. And that is the phenomenal Brocchi's cluster. And I'm going to say Brocchi because I lived in Italy for a while, and that's how we'd say it there. I don't know if and it was Italian. So this was it's also known as Al-Sufi's cluster. It's an open cluster, as you can see, although actually it's not an open cluster. It's been found in recent years, although only 6 of its brightest stars form a cluster, but there are 10 stars in total, and there are sort of these 6 that go straight across horizontal, although I'm only seeing 5 at the minute, and then there are 4 in the hook that sort of comes down, curves from left to right. This is known as also the coat hanger, as a really, really well-known asterism. It's also known, because it's kind of an upside-down coat hanger, as the ski lift, some people call it. So it was first described by the Persian astronomer Al-Sufi in his Book of Fixed Stars in the year 964. So just amazing to think we're looking at this now. Same. And then in the 17th century, it was independently rediscovered by an Italian astronomer, G.B. Hodierna, who didn't get his name to it. And then in the 1920s, Dalmero Francis Brocchi, an amateur astronomer and chart maker, he created a map of this object. And then in 1931, the Swedish astronomer Per Colander also listed it. But in the main show page, I'll just put this image in the middle. I mean, as you can see, exactly the same. This shot in the middle has some colour in it. But that is just really, really phenomenal to me. And let me just move that back to the side. It's really easy to find. So if you are on the main show page, you basically find your summer triangle. So you look for Deneb, and then you find Albireo in Cygnus, the part of the Northern Cross part of Cygnus, and then literally come down about 5, well, in here you come down sort of 5 p.m. and you'll pass through Anser, the Alpha star, you might see that there, and keep on going and you'll find the coat hanger. Just so easy to find with your own eyes, even better with binoculars, but a real treat when looking into the summer triangle and in this constellation. So just so thrilled that we get to see it with such clarity. I'm going to take another snap of this. Oh, and the colours coming in, just wonderful. So really, really amazing. It was really, really lovely. I'm so thrilled with this constellation, I cannot tell you. But anyway, to begin our tale of the little fox, here we go. So, or rather the little prince and the little fox. So the story of the little prince, if you don't know it, is that he lives on a really small minor planet that he tends to. He really loves, and he takes care of it every day. And it has 3 very small volcanoes, one of which is extinct. and some animals and trees and plants, and a really beautiful rose that sort of came there as a seed. And it's the only rose the little prince has ever seen, and he loves it dearly and looks after it. But this rose is a little bit vain and a little bit mean, and the little prince decides that he has to leave his planet because he can't bear her anymore. And he visits these 6 planets and meets some grown-ups who are all kind of ridiculous and materialistic and silly. One man, for example, counts stars and puts them in the bank, just the numbers, not the stars. And eventually the little prince comes to Earth and he meets the narrator of this tale, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, a pilot, who actually was a pilot, who was crashed in the African desert. And the little prince sort of stumbles upon Antoine de Saint-Exupéry and shares his tale and tells him that when he came to Earth, he came across thousands of roses and realised that his rose wasn't unique, and it kind of crushed him a little bit. But then he met a little fox who shared with him some wise words. I'm just going to pause there and just sort of check back in. It is 7:15, so we're looking at an open cluster in T2. It's actually sort of these two, it's an unusual story. There are these 2 clusters, and it's wondered if maybe they would, Herschel just duplicated them. It's NGC 6882 and 6885. It's still sort of a bit up in the air as to whether he meant to have 2 instead of just the 1. So I just thought they're at 1.4 billion years old, so it's pretty amazing, and it's 2,000 light years away. Number 37 in the Coldwell catalogue. But I just thought that was fun to sort of look at and maybe see if you can work out, are there 2 clusters? Is there 1 cluster? And then, if I'm not mistaken, the half meter is going to be looking at an emissions nebula, which has got an amazing cluster within it as well. So that's going to be on that for 10 minutes. So maybe you'll see some nebulosity come through. We'll also be switching back to that in T2. So didn't want to miss that. But there is this really lovely sort of side story to the Little Prince before we even get to the little fox, and that is that the pilot, the narrator, said he had reason to believe that the planet the Little Prince came from is asteroid B612. And he says, this asteroid has been sighted only once by telescope in 1909 by Turkish astronomer, who had then made a formal demonstration of his discovery, but no one believed him on account of the way he was dressed. Grown-ups are like that. Fortunately for the reputation of asteroid B612, a Turkish dictator ordered his people on pain of death to wear European clothes, and the astronomer repeated his demonstration in 1920, wearing a very elegant suit, and this time everyone believed him. Now, it's completely made up. The story was written in 1943, and just beautiful that he sort of made this fun thing up about where the Little Prince was from. However, in 1993, two Japanese amateur astronomers discovered an asteroid, and the asteroid was 46610. They were amateur astronomers, and it was in eastern Hokkaido in Japan. And it was decided that because the number 46610 written in hexadecimal notation is 612, apparently, that this would be named, this asteroid, Bézi-12, which is French for B612, in honour of the asteroid on which the Little Prince lived. And that was accepted, officially named in 2002. So how sweet that our little Prince's home asteroid, his little planet, B612, is actually in existence today. So I just loved that. But to the fox. Here we go. So as he's lying down weeping, poor little Prince, realizing he just owns an ordinary rose, and he thought maybe he had something special, This fox appears and it says, "Good morning." "Good morning," says the little prince politely, but he turned round and saw nothing there. "I'm here," the voice said, "under the apple tree." "And who are you?" the little prince asked. "You're very pretty." "I'm a fox," the fox said. "Come and play with me," the prince proposed. "I'm feeling very sad." "I can't play with you," said the fox, "because I'm not tamed." Said the little prince. "What does tamed mean?" "You're not from around here," the fox said. "What are you looking for?" "I'm looking for people," said the little prince. "What does tamed mean?" "People," said the fox, "have guns and they hunt. It's quite troublesome. They also raise chickens, though, and that's the only interesting thing about them." "Are you looking for chickens?" "No," said the little prince. "I'm looking for friends." "What does tamed mean?" "It's something that's been too often neglected," said the fox. "It means to create ties. For me, you're only a little boy like 100,000 other boys, and I have no need of you, and you have no need of me either. For you, I'm only a fox like 100,000 other foxes. But if you tame me, we'll need each other. You'll be the only boy in the world for me, and I'll be the only fox in the world for you." And on that, I'm going to bring up these little pictures on the main show page to accompany our story. Let's pull this down here. Here we go. Just love these images. I think they're adorable. So we'll have them up there. Okay. "So I think I'm beginning to understand," the little prince said. "There's a flower and I think she tamed me." "Possibly," said the fox. "On Earth one sees all kinds of things." "Oh, this isn't on Earth," the prince said. The fox was intrigued. "On another planet?" "Yeah." "Are there hunters on that planet?" "No." "Well, that's interesting." "Are there chickens?" "No." "Well, nothing's perfect," sighed the fox, but he returned to his idea. "My life is monotonous. I hunt chickens, people hunt me, all chickens are alike and all men are alike. I'm just bored. But if you tame me, my life will be full of sunshine. I'll know the sound of footsteps that will be different from the rest. Other footsteps send me back underground, but yours will call me out of the burrow like music. And then look, you see the wheat fields over there? I don't eat bread. For me, wheat is of no use. Wheat fields say nothing to me, which is sad. But you have hair the colour of gold. So once you have tamed me, the wheat, which is golden, will remind me of you, and I'll love the sound of the wind in the wheat. Please tame me." "I'd like to," the prince said, "but I haven't much time. I have friends to find and things to learn." "The only things you learn are the things you tame," said the fox. "People haven't time to learn anything. They buy things ready-made in stores. But since there are no stores where you can buy friends, people no longer have friends. If you want a friend, tame me." "What must I do?" said the prince. "You have to be patient," the fox answered. "First you'll sit down a little way away, over there in the grass, and I'll watch you out the corner of my eye and won't say anything. Language is a source of misunderstanding. But day by day you'll come a little bit closer." So the next day the prince returned. "It would have been better to return the same time," the fox said. "For instance, if you come at 4, I'll be happy by 3. The closer it gets to 4, the happier I'll feel. By 4, I'll be excited and worried, and I'll discover what it costs to be happy. If you come by any old time, I'll never know when I should prepare my heart. There must be rights." "What's a right?" asked the little prince. "That's another thing that's been too often neglected," said the fox. And that was how the little prince tamed the fox, and when the time to leave was near, the fox said, "I shall weep." "It's your own fault," said the little prince. "I never wanted to do you any harm, but you insisted that I tame you." "Well, of course," the fox said. "But now you're going to weep," said the prince. "Well, of course," the fox said. "Then you get nothing out of it." "Oh, I get something," said the fox, "because of the colour of the wheat." Then he added, "Go look at the roses again and you'll understand that yours is the only rose in all the world. Then come back to say goodbye and I'll make you the gift of a secret." The little prince went to look at the roses again. "You're not at all like my rose. You're nothing at all. No one has tamed you and you haven't tamed anyone. You're the way my fox was, but I've made him my friend and now he's the only fox in the world." And the roses were humbled. "You're lovely, but you're empty. One couldn't die for you. Of course, an ordinary passerby would think my rose looked just like you, but my rose, all on her own, is more important than all of you together, since she is the one I've cared for." And he went back to the fox. "Goodbye," he said. "Goodbye," said the fox, "and here is my secret. It's quite simple. One sees clearly only with the heart. Anything essential is invisible to the eyes. It's the time you spent on your rose that makes the rose so important. People have forgotten this truth, but you mustn't forget. You become responsible forever for what you have tamed. You're responsible for your rose. Ah, and that is our story of the little fox. So we're moving now onto the Dumbbell Nebula before we finish the story of the Little Prince. So I just wanted to sort of bring that to your awareness. Again, it's just a stunner, and I'm so glad we get to see it with each other. You'll see it in the deep sky as well. Wow, that is a beautiful, beautiful color. It's also known as the apple core, as you'll see why it does look a little like an apple core, right? It's my notes on. I know some of you have just been looking at the Dumbbell Nebula all week, but it's about 1,300 light years away. It's very interesting because it was the first planetary nebula discovered by Charles Messier in 1764. Didn't call it a planetary nebula at the time. Actually, what he wrote was nebula without star discovered in Vulpecula between the two forepaws, and very near the star 14 of that constellation of 5th magnitude. One can see it well with an ordinary telescope. It appears of oval shape and contains no star. So actually, he was a little wrong. So this some fun things about this nebula. It's at most 48,000 years old, with many estimates putting it closer to 10,000. Like, it's really, really like new in astronomy standards. So prior to that, it was a giant star burning through its helium fuel in its core and hydrogen in its outer layers. And as with planetary nebulae, when the core ran out of helium fuel, it contracted and heated up, and the elevation in radiation pressure blew off the star's outer hydrogen-rich layers. But it didn't simply blow those layers off spherically, as our sun probably will, because it's part of a binary star system, and that second star that's still burning through its fuel helps eject that blown off mass in this sort of dual lobe trajectory that we see. So it's really, really interesting. And some of the mass of the original star is flung even further than the typical images show. So just beautiful. What a lovely like gem in this tiny, tiny constellation. So I'm just having a look through the different telescopes here, just to really get a good shot. Fantastic. So we're going to be looking at that really for the next sort of I think I booked till 7:35, maybe not on them all, but probably on T1 at least. And then just thought I'd end today with the end of The Little Prince, because I just think it has something special for us who love the stars. So in the end, he has to leave the planet. He sort of realises, Little Prince, that it wasn't the rose at all that was so special. It was the love in his heart for the rose. And he says that people on Earth don't realise that they have all these thousands of roses, but they still can't find what they're looking for, but he's finally found it. So after recounting this story to the pilot, they walk together under the stars, and they share a drink from a well, and the pilot becomes very sad because the Little Prince is going to leave. But he says to the pilot, "At night you'll look up at the stars. It's too small where I live for me to show you where my star is, and it's better that way. My star will be one of the stars for you, so you'll like looking at all of them. They'll all be your friends. And besides, I have a present for you." And he laughed again. "Ah, little fellow," said the pilot, "I love hearing that laugh." "That will be my present," said the prince. "What do you mean?" "People have stars, but they aren't the same. For travellers, the stars are guides. For other people, they're nothing but tiny lights. And for others, like scholars, they are problems to solve. For my businessman on that planet, they were gold. But all those stars are silent stars. You, though, you'll have stars like no one else. When you look up at the sky at night, since I'll be living on one of them, since I'll be laughing on one of them, for you it will be as if all the stars are laughing. You'll have stars that can laugh." You'll feel like laughing with me, and you'll open your window sometimes just for the fun of it, and your friends will be amazed to see you laughing while you're looking up at the sky. Then you'll tell them, yes, it is the stars. They always make me laugh, and they will think you are crazy. Oh, such a really sweet book, and it was a pleasure for me to sort of read this because of Vulpecula. It's just amazing how the stars are so inspiring, just so wonderful. So that's sort of it for me. I'm just going to put a picture of the Dumbbell Nebula up for anyone who didn't get to see it. Let's have a little shifty around here. Our beautiful little prince and the fox. So for those who maybe listen later in on YouTube, but it's well worth booking admission to because you can really see it beautifully in Slooh's telescopes. Just stunning. So that's kind of it for me. There was a couple of things I wanted to mention. One is to check out Illuminations. There are a couple of really lovely posts from some members that I put up today. Also, if you do put on Illuminations and you have trouble loading an image, just email me and I will put that image up for you. We've got a bit of a glitch happening at the minute, so I have to sort of put it in the back end, but it is being sorted out. But you can do that for now. I would hate it to deter people from putting up an illumination post. Also, as many of you will know, it's the closest Mars and Earth are going to be tonight for 15 years, and they won't be this close again till 2035. And that closest time is 4 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. UTC. And Paul has set up in Chile 15 minutes. If you're up at 4 a.m., could be you, Carol. if you're up and you really want to honor that moment of this beautiful Earth and Mars together, we have you covered in Chile at 4 a.m. I think it starts 3:55 to 4:10, I think. But there are several missions to Mars throughout the night that I've seen members put up. And also tonight I'm going to decide which small constellation we'll look at, I think Wednesday night. So keep an eye out on the livecast page for that, or the community board. Again, please, I welcome all emails. I'm sorry I didn't get round to seeing them in time for Delphinus, but I will be more on top of that. And I hope you have a really beautiful night gazing at the stars, thinking about Bezzy Doos and the little prince and the foxy friend and all his advice. Yeah, very clear skies. It's really lovely to be here, and thanks if you've joined me for a second time, and apologies again about last night, but it's such an honour to be here, and I'm so thrilled to be part of this community. So blessings to all, and a lovely evening wherever you are, and I'll see you soon.